Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce Simon joins me with a little special assist from GMAC, who will join us to talk about this beautiful Knicks Pistons series. But we're going to talk about the Ja Morant injury leading into this crazy Thunder comeback, the second biggest comeback in playoffs history to take a commanding 3-0 lead over the Memphis Grizzlies. We will talk Knicks Pistons, and we will talk a little bit about the Clippers Nuggets as well. But the story of the night definitely feels like it is absolutely the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Memphis Grizzlies. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this gonna be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? We got another good night of NBA playoff basketball. I feel like every night's given us something at least. This one looked like it was going to give us one game and then a couple of blowouts, and then OKC, well, I should say Ja Morant goes down. OKC turns it on in the second half with some contributions that, you know, I definitely want to talk about. I know we're going to talk about, but really impressed me. I only saw the second half of that game. I was recording a podcast after the Pistons game. And then one dominant performance where the game just didn't end up as close. But again, the playoffs continue to deliver on almost a nightly basis.
I think that let's start with Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
So let's just jump in and talk about Oklahoma City defeating the Memphis Grizzlies on a night where, like, I'm really interested to see, like, I mean, this is the second biggest comeback in NBA playoff history. This is Ja Morant getting hurt, which played the biggest role in that. And it happened like during the NFL draft, so I don't think anybody's gonna like really understand or notice what happened here, because the series is going to be over after, you know, the next game in all likelihood. The final score here in this game is, as I'm looking,
114-108.
114-108. That's correct. I want to just start here. The Memphis Grizzlies in the first half, I thought, put together about as comprehensive and impressive a performance offensively as I have seen all season against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't think it was all that repeatable necessarily, because they were like 11 of 22 from three. They shot incredibly well. They were just on fire. Scottie Pippen was on fire. It was really good. But more than that, Oklahoma City had some really bad live dribble turnovers and live ball turnovers that led to runouts and made things like a little bit easier to just up the offensive efficiency against what is the best defense that we've seen probably in the last 10 years of the NBA in Oklahoma City. So I don't know how repeatable it was, but I will say that it was remarkably impressive. I thought that they did a lot of really interesting, creative things in terms of getting Ja Morant into space. Like, they utilized a lot of really fun, like, empty side, you know, drag screen kind of actions to be able to get him early. And Ja did like an amazing job of kind of setting those guys up with like little hesitations into behind the back dribbles to be able to get into the open side of the court. And that's where he can thrive, obviously, is he can make reads off of drop coverage at a super high level. If you tag, he's going to hit that opposite corner. If you end up trying to stay at home, he's going to be able to hit the lob with Edey, which, you know, is a pass that he is extremely capable of, and a pass that Edey is extremely capable of catching. So I do want to start with how impressive Memphis was in the first half of this game. And then Ja Morant goes down. And I think we have to start with the play, because it did just completely color everything that happened after it. I do not think this is a dirty play by any stretch. I think Lou Dort just slipped, and he was trying to guard Scottie Pippen. He was going backward. he decided to try and come forward to guard Ja Morant to be able to contest, and he just lost his footing. This is the second night in a row, though, where a NBA All-Star has gotten undercut by like an all-defense guy, and it is a bummer. It sucks. I don't, I don't blame Lou Dort. I don't blame Amen Thompson. Like I don't blame any of this here, but it just so significantly clouds everything that we saw after it that it's hard for me to get past that as we go through and talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously changes the trajectory of the game, and I don't know if I want to say the series. I mean, I guess if Memphis ends up beating the Thunder by 20 behind a great Ja Morant performance where it looks like maybe they've unlocked something, maybe we're sitting here right now and we're like, hey, when we thought this was going to be a sweep, maybe Memphis can push. Maybe they can win, 2 at home, and we're going back to OKC 2-2. And I don't think either of us would ever get to the point where we wouldn't think OKC is going to win the series. But, you never know, because like you said, in the last 2 nights, we've seen 2 guys get injured. Well, every game you play, every minute you play increases your likelihood, or your chance of getting hurt. So my point being, OKC wants to close this out as fast as possible, so something like this can't happen to SGA or J-Dub or somebody like that. I did just want to touch real quick with Morant. Again, I missed the first half, so I didn't see any of Morant tonight. But every time I've watched him here late in the year, including, I think I have notes on game 2, his nuance of the way he plays does impress me. And that's kind of what you broke down there, like his change of pace, his dribble moves, his reads, like those type of things. Everybody falls in love with the crazy vertical pop off the floor and body control in the air and stuff like that. But he does have real nuance in the way he goes about attacking a defense and getting to the basket. And I think it's always important to highlight that with Morant's game.
And it was on full display in the first half tonight. Like, it was unbelievable how good he was in ball screens. I thought that Edey did a better job of like screening and rescreening in the first half of this game, being able to create that little bit of space and separation for him to get dribble penetration. And once he does that, Oklahoma City's defense collapses. He's able to spray the ball out, hit Scottie Pippen Jr., hit different guys, Santi Aldama, etc. So this happens. And, where I think I'm at on these, and like, I don't know how you feel about this, but I wouldn't, again, I don't want to blame Lou Dort or Amen Thompson in any way for this. I don't think these were dirty plays. I think they were just incredibly unlucky where they both kind of lost their footing and this happened. I wouldn't have an issue with these undercut plays being just an automatic flagrant. Now, like, it becomes a slippery slope, obviously. Like, what is an undercut? I think that, like, if you just made it as simple as, like, if the player gets horizontal in the air, or like something like that, where he's like way in the air and he's horizontal as he lands, or whatever it is, right? There could be something there to do that. It's one of those plays where it's so dangerous, and I totally get that tonight, for instance, like Dort just slipped, right? Like, he just lost his footing. There's no ill intent there from Dort. But it is still just incredibly dangerous. Like, these plays are incredibly dangerous. If there's any way to try and get them out of the game, maybe by just like an auto flagrant foul where it's 2 points in the ball, I don't totally mind that as an idea.
Maybe there's something with, if you make contact with an airborne player's lower body or something like that, right? But there's probably something, like, if you really thought about it. The thing I don't want to take away, like, I saw one the other day that people were mad about a chase down block attempt and a player ended up falling backwards. And I'm like, so we want to take that out of people's games? Like, I know I kind of ranted about this yesterday, where we want players to play hard and be aggressive and not give up on plays. So I think you have to be careful.
Totally.
I agree with you, because I will listen, I wasn't a high riser, but like, I could get up, and, especially in my high school days, I, played above the rim. And
let the people know.
Yeah. There's no scarier feeling on a basketball court than being up in the air and having somebody get into your lower body, or quite like not trusting somebody to not be aware that you're up in the air and don't have control over yourself. If they take out your legs, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And so I think there's something there. I just want if the league does do it, I think I'm with you. I'd be okay with it, even though I don't think people are doing in these instances doing on purpose. I just want to be careful with like, you start taking some of this stuff out of it, and then we take away a part of the game I do appreciate, which is these hustle plays, these recovery blocks. You know, at the end of the day, these are big time athletes on both sides of it, and it's just it is going to happen a little bit because they're playing so high off the floor.
Yeah, that's the thing that makes it dangerous, though, to me too. Is like these are the best athletes in the world. You know what I mean? Like these guys are so explosive, and it just is dangerous. It just genuinely is dangerous.
It's fair.
I don't know if I have the answer on this. Like, but it would be good to find a way to legislate these out of the game. But now we have to go to Oklahoma City, because the way that they came back in the second half, I thought was remarkable. First, it starts with Chet Holmgren. His third quarter, he had 16 points in the first 8 minutes of the third quarter, and just like completely took over the game when Shea was not playing all that well at that point, frankly. Chet and J-Dub were really the two guys that came alive and stepped up and were enormous to me. Were absolutely enormous to me in this one. Chet's performance in the second half, I thought, really galvanized them and made them realize this isn't over. We still got this. Like, we can still work our way methodically back into this game. I thought that the way that they used different shooters to attack Zach Edey was interesting. Like, there were a couple of possessions, I think one in the first and one in the second, where they would run like DHOs for Isaiah Joe off of, Hartenstein. And they knew that Edey was going to play drop coverage, and it was just going to lead to a wide open screen or a wide open three if Hartenstein was able to just like really get his body there and wipe out the opposing defender trying to get through the screen. I thought that was sharp from them. The other guy that just completely and utterly took over this game is Alex Caruso.
Yeah.
This game is the utter, like, exact, perfect example of why they traded for him. It's why, I think late in the season, you saw people going, oh, like, Josh Giddey, like they traded Giddey and he's doing all this stuff. He has all these triple doubles on a bad Chicago Bulls team. Like, did the Bulls win that trade? No. Like, the Bulls did fine in that deal, and we talked about that when it happened. Like, they could have gotten more, but like Giddey was probably always going to be like okay for them. The thing is that for Oklahoma City, Caruso is perfect for what they needed.
Yeah.
In this game here is the exact example. He probably had, I swear, it felt like 8 different plays where his hand-eye coordination and just his disruptiveness with his hands completely blew up whatever Memphis was doing. I get it. Again, you can't say enough that they did not have Ja Morant and they didn't have a way to actually score in this second half. But the way that Caruso just blew everything up was good guarding Jaren Jackson Jr., was really good in help, was disruptive with deflections. He had 3 or 4 steals. Like, it was as disruptive a defensive performance as I've seen in a while.
Yeah, honestly, Chet and Caruso were the guys that really caught my attention initially, and then J-Dub kind of helped bring it home as well, of course, and had a really good game. But I think the way you brought up Chet is right. Whenever it was like, okay, are we really going to be able to make a run at this or not? Are we going to be able to chip away? It seemed like Chet was the one that was really locked in on that. And then Caruso, like you said, I don't know what the box score numbers are. I will tell you this, whatever they are doesn't do it justice, because like the sheer steal numbers don't account for all the deflections. He probably didn't get accounted for every steal where he knocked the ball away. Maybe a teammate's the one that actually secured it. He was all over the place on the defensive end. And like I say, just you said it perfectly, causing disruption. They had multiple plays where I feel like they tricked the Memphis ball handlers into dribbling across half court, that you teach third graders not to do. Don't dribble into the corner and cross over there. Like I remember Jaren, I think, had to call a timeout with 16 seconds left in the third quarter. And, because they had him just dead to rights in the corner between half court and the sideline. So just the defense of OKC in general finally locked in. Yet again, no Ja is an important caveat in the conversation, but it felt like it was led by Caruso and his disruption on that end.
77 points in the first half, 31 in the second half for the Memphis Grizzlies. And that's the Ja impact, but it's also, the way that Caruso just completely took over the game. Donason asks, basically, were they cautious with Caruso during the regular season to save him for the playoffs? Yes. I think they absolutely tried to limit Caruso's minutes and limit the wear and tear on his body because A, he's a little bit older, but B, the style of play is just so physical and like he's diving on the court for loose balls. He just puts himself in harm's way. He is a guy that accumulates injuries throughout the course of his career. Anything that you can do in order to get him through the regular season, I think is utterly the right decision. It was as impressive a perimeter, like defensive performance from a guard as I have seen in quite a while. He completely took over the game. I can't say it a different way. He had 4 steals and 1 block. You asked about the box score stats. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy.
Caruso played 54 games this season. He only played more than 23 minutes in 10 of them. And he played 23 minutes tonight. He played a bunch of games this year in the 15 to 19, 13 to 19 minute range. There is a bunch of these games where that's all he played. If you go less than 21 minutes, it's like it's a bunch. So it makes sense that maybe they were saving him. And listen, they didn't bring in Caruso to win a Game 3 in the first round against the Grizzlies, but it was an example of that, right? Like this is what, whoever ends up being in the next round, which is, a series we'll talk about, having this type of game in that game or the conference finals or the NBA finals, that's what it's here for. And it seems like they're just kind of building him up to this. And the roster decisions are interesting. Our guy Aaron Wiggins only played 7 minutes tonight. Even Isaiah Joe, 15 minutes in this game. I feel like they went away from Hartenstein a little bit and just went, quote unquote small with Chet at the 5. And, Hart only played 21 tonight, but that's the depth of this team where you can't even question it because they still had 5 very quality players on the court.
Yeah, totally. And look, that roster flexibility is exactly what we've talked about them throughout the year, right? It's that they have the ability to go big with a Hartenstein and Holmgren if they want to try and match with Edey, or they can go small and try and run Edey off the court if they want to. You know what I mean? Like they can try and play, Chet with J-Dub at the 4, Caruso at the 3, guarding Jaren sometimes. And then, any of the guards like Shea or Dort or Aaron Wiggins or like Cason Wallace, like whatever you want to do, you're going to be able to do it with these guys. That's what makes them so dangerous. It's what makes them such an interesting player and such an interesting team here moving forward in the playoffs. And it's why they won 68 games this year. That flexibility to be able to do so many different things and be able to present so many different ways. Look, again, this is the exact way that I think of basketball. So, maybe this is my bias showing in some way, but I just adore everything that they're about. And, tonight was such a great example. Again, 29-point deficit, and they come all the way back and win. Now we'll see what happens with Ja Morant. And, if they had won, I would imagine that, maybe there's a chance he would have played. And he came down on his hip hard, though. I really hope that he's okay. That was brutal.
Yeah, I mean, it always stinks whenever these guys miss games. You know, we talked about this with Jimmy in that series where I don't care who wins between the Rockets and the Warriors. I just want the most interesting series we can get. And if a healthy Ja Morant would have given us an extra game of Thunder Grizzlies, like I don't think that's what's best for the Thunder, but for me, getting a chance to watch more basketball, I think would be awesome. And obviously for Ja, who's battled injuries in his career, it stinks not seeing him in a playoff setting, but we'll see. You know, it sounds like Jimmy Butler's, I know they're different, but it sounds like Jimmy's at least not, I don't know the right way to say it. A chance for game 3, even though if it's not a great chance. So, you know, maybe Ja could play in game 4, but when you're down 0-3, how much do you want to push it? Be interesting to see what they decide.
Yeah. And, you know, the other thing I do want to say here for Oklahoma City and for Memphis is particularly early in the second half, Memphis had a number of opportunities to put this game away.
Yeah. And
they missed a ton of open shots.
This is a team that still have Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. So it's not like it's the Detroit Pistons without Cade Cunningham and there's nobody left. Like both you and I had Jaren Jackson Jr. as a third team All NBA guy this season, and have a lot of respect for Desmond Bane. Not to mention
for worth, like Jaren had 22 tonight. He was good at taking advantage of mismatches. He struggled a little bit with the Caruso stuff, but like, you know, he still had 22 tonight, and I thought was impactful.
And Bane struggled. The guy that we probably need to give a little bit of flowers to is Scottie Pippen Jr. I know you mentioned him, but just a 28-point night, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 6 of 10 from 3. I will say this. You know what I was a little impressed with, Sam? You could see OKC making the comeback, right? Like,
yeah,
they tied it up on the SGA 3 free throws, getting fouled on the 3, obviously. Memphis came right back at him and I think scored like 4 or 6 straight points. And then OKC came back and then Memphis went back at him again. And I was like, okay, like I kind of appreciate this, that, you know, when you blow a lead like that, it gets real nerve wracking because you realize what you're doing. And obviously they weren't able to close it out. But I kind of respected that they were able to push back against the Thunder, even whenever OKC got all of this momentum going throughout that comeback.
Yeah. And, you know, Toby brings up in the comments, like, I'm confused about Taylor Jenkins firing. Isalo has not been impressive. I mean, I totally disagree with that. I thought that Isalo was super impressive in the first half. The ability to get Ja into space, some of the stuff that they ran to find these different avenues for him, the way that they adjusted like the screen level, the way that they adjusted like Edie's rescreening, I thought was actually really, really good. It's just that when you lose the guy that your entire offense is built around, and Isalo's offense is built around like super heavy ball screen usage, it's just like so difficult in that moment to be able to do anything. I actually thought Isalo showed me something tonight, to be honest with you, more than he was unimpressive. And like, people are going to look at, oh my God, it was a 29-point comeback, but the way that it's not an accident that they had 77 points in the first half and then Ja Morant goes down. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was super, super impressive to me.
I mean, this is the exact conversation we had whenever the firing happened. And like, you know, I kind of defended Taylor Jenkins to an extent in terms of, can you blame a guy for going to an offense that isn't built around a single player running ball screens when that single player's availability has been in question over the last few years? Tonight was not Ja's fault. And in general, injuries aren't people's fault, but you know, it kind of showed up again here. But yeah, I haven't seen the first half yet, so I can't speak on it as confidently as you, but it seems like they tapped into something, at least for the first half. My biggest thing so far in the series was just like, I'm surprised we haven't seen Vince Williams at all, just defensively, you know, taking SGA some. And I mean, it's not a big deal, but like, they were playing Marvin Bagley and not Jay Huff. Now, Bagley didn't play tonight anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It was just like a few roster, like, but it was on the margins. I don't even know that it really matters a whole lot.
Yeah. Okay. Before we move to the other Western Conference game, we want to shout out our good friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. On PrizePicks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. You can combine your favorite basketball players, players from baseball, hockey, esports, whatever you want. You can do it over at PrizePicks. They just make it incredibly easy to get real money sports action. The playoffs are here in both the NHL and in the NBA. It's just an incredible, incredible way to have fun while watching games. Go to PrizePicks, cook up some hot takes, and win some real money this basketball season, this baseball season, this hockey season while you still got it. When you and your game run your crew over, or when you and your crew run your game over on PrizePicks. My goodness. Download the app today and use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Second sponsor, LinkedIn. As a small business owner, you do not have the luxury of clocking out early. Your business is on your mind 24/7. So when you're hiring, you need a partner that grinds just as hard as you do. That hiring partner is LinkedIn Jobs. When you clock out, LinkedIn is going to clock in. They make it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates that you can manage all in one place. If you've ever hired before, you know that it can be hard. You know that you can think that you're hiring the right person at the time, and in the end, it just wasn't what you thought it was going to be because maybe you didn't ask the right questions. LinkedIn is going to help you get all of that information ahead of time so you can make an assured, smart hire. Based on LinkedIn data, 72% of small businesses using LinkedIn say that LinkedIn helps them find quality candidates. Find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring today. Find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/game. That's GAME. That's linkedin.com/game to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Okay. The final game tonight, we're just going to run through a little bit quickly. This was just a comprehensive beatdown. This ended up being 34 points. The LA Clippers beat the Denver Nuggets 117-83. Nikola Jokic goes for a triple-double, 23, 13, and 13 with only 2 turnovers. Jamal Murray has 23 points, and it just felt like nobody else showed up beyond those two and Aaron Gordon. Michael Porter was 2 for 9. Christian Brown was 4 for 9. Russell Westbrook played 9 minutes. He got hurt, if I remember correctly. Peyton Watson played 18 minutes, didn't do anything. Jalen Pickett was just out there getting cardio, it felt like. Julian Strawther played. That's where we know that we're in trouble, given how much Denver has avoided playing him, it feels like, recently. The big thing, though, was that, and this has been the case this entire series, Clippers have scored 110, 105, now 117. Outside of really, I think I would say the second half of the first game, Denver has not found any way to stop Los Angeles in anything that they do. And it's something we've talked about. We've broken down all 3 of these games on the channel so far. Tonight, Denver, I felt like threw the fucking kitchen sink at these guys. They tried zone. They tried to play drop coverage in different circumstances. They tried to hedge and recover with Jokic and put 2 on the ball at times to take it out of Harden's hands. They tried to play off of Chris Dunn and shrink the lane. They tried to do everything in this game. And there was never an answer. There's just genuinely never a point where I felt like they had any chance to stop what the Clippers were doing. Harden goes nuts kind of at the end of the first half. Kawhi was just his steady, unwavering self, going for 21, 11, and 6. Norm Powell got going a little bit in this game. He was like kind of slashing and doing things. Chris Dunn made a couple of first half threes. Batum was ridiculous. He just caught a couple of no dip threes that, you know, he's been so good at throughout the course of the back half of his career. Again, it just genuinely felt like there was never a point where I felt like Denver had a chance to stop them.
Yeah, I mean, this Clipper team is really interesting, Sam, and I think this was the game. You know, they lose the game in overtime, come back, win a close one, and then tonight, like you said, like they just 34-point victory. You know, you look through the Nuggets box score stuff, and Michael Porter Jr., you know, I gave him some flowers after game 2. Tonight, not really able to get anything going. And the Clippers, I just feel like they've really found their rotation. They found themselves. They found their identity, whatever you want to call it, right? Like they have the starting lineup locked in. James Harden is going to run the show. When Kawhi's healthy, you have him. We've seen him already in this playoffs just go like just nuclear in a game. Norman Powell with a very efficient 20 points tonight, which I think is really important because in the first 2 games, he had 25 points on 26 shots, and tonight he gets 20 on 12. And so I think that's just another little piece that maybe he's kind of adjusted coming back from his injury, everybody being healthy and all of that. But it's just a really nice starting lineup with Dunn and Zubac kind of locking down the defense along with somebody like Kawhi. And then when you get to that, like you can even maybe find the right matchup for Harden where just like maybe physically he can hold up because he is so strong where, you know, he's not having to chase somebody around or, you know, somebody with a whole lot of twitch or anything like that. And then you mentioned Batum. I don't know. He's just one of those. I think he's going to make it all the time. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
he's one of those. Like, if you told me I needed somebody to make a corner 3 to save my life, like Nicolas Batum would be a guy. If it's especially if it's a no dip.
And do you know what's like really cool about Batum? Like, I don't know if people remember when Batum came into the NBA. He was like all athlete, like, you know, was working on the skill still, right? And then as he, you know, matured and got older, he became like playmaker, right? Yeah. Guy who could, you know, sometimes play on the ball as like a point forward, could slash, could really pass the ball. And then as he's aged, he's become this like sniper corner 3-point shooter. Yeah. Like he's gone through so many cool evolutions throughout the course of his career that he is like one of the coolest developmental journeys almost that I can remember over the last like 20 years of the NBA. You know, it's him, like Blake Griffin's another one that I always point to. You know, like there are so many all-stars that you could point to in this regard, but like among the role players, and, you know, again, Batum got like a $116 million deal or something. Like he wasn't really a role player, you know, throughout the entirety of his career, but just like really, really cool the way that he's gone about kind of developing his game and, you know, adjusting to the athletic tools that he has at his disposal at any given point of his career. And the thing that stands out there is just like brain power, right? Like the processing ability, the self-awareness of what it takes to be an NBA player in certain circumstances. So yeah, I just really respect Nick Batum in terms of the way that he's gone about his career. Look, when we broke down this series, or like in the, you know, his final day of the regular season, Nick got finalized. I think that the thing that we talked about more than anything else was that I thought this was just an awesome matchup for the Clippers on defense against what Denver is trying to do on offense. They have the ability with Chris Dunn to chase around Jamal Murray. They have the ability with Zubac, who probably guards Jokic better than anybody. And again, Jokic is a triple-double tonight. You're never going to shut down Nikola Jokic. But if you can make his life harder, and Chris Dunn can make Jamal Murray's life harder, And then on top of it, you have Kawhi as a defensive player to
I was
throw
gonna say,
out.
and you still have Kawhi to go guard Porter Jr. or Gordon or Christian, like whichever one you feel like is most dangerous to you.
Use his length to shrink the court in different ways.
Yep.
Like tonight in the 9 minutes that Russell Westbrook played, I felt like he was completely unplayable because they just didn't guard him. And Ty Lue is this awesome. Jeff Van Gundy as well deserves a lot of credit here. Just great defensive minds. Just really, really impressive. Really, really impressive the way the Clippers have gone about this series. I think I said Clippers in 6 when we did this, and I think that's kind of where we're heading at this point. Like 5 wouldn't blow my mind, given that I thought the Clippers probably should have won game 1 as well. But I think we're headed toward Clippers in 6, and I think we're headed toward Thunder Clippers, and that series is an absolute, like, that might be the series I'm most in fact, I think it is the series I'm most looking forward to in the second round as a possible outcome.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, I'll probably just keep doing this every night we record, because once you get out of the first round, you get to really fun series a lot of times. And, last night I said, hey, this potential Pacers Cavs series is going to be a blast. But I think I'm with you. Clippers, and I do feel like I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but that would be a whole lot of fun, just thinking about the matchups in terms of who the Clippers could throw at SGA, and then how are the Clippers going to score with how the Thunder can match up with them. But we did mention the coaching matchup here, and this is no shade at David Adelman, but he's been a head coach for all of 3 weeks, and right. Ty Lue is one of the best in the NBA. Consistently, he always comes up in the conversation, and I think it's kind of cool for the Clippers. People were questioning, and sometimes it's like maybe they lucked into it, maybe it happened on purpose, maybe it happened all by design. But whenever the stuff didn't happen with Paul George, but they had Kawhi signed to this long contract, and then they go out and they make some moves around the margins, it's like, well, does that really move the needle? What are we doing? And they ended up putting a pretty interesting team together that is on a path right now to knock off a Nuggets team, and on a collision course with, one of the best regular season teams we've seen recently. And I think they'll give them a series if it does happen, as long as Kawhi stays healthy.
Have you seen the movie Moneyball, Bryce?
Yes, one of my favorites.
Okay, so
adapt or die, Sam Vecenie, adapt or die.
What this Clippers roster build just reminds me of is
replacing
Brad Pitt. Yeah, Brad Pitt says, you guys are still trying to replace Jason Giambi. We can't replace Giambi. Yeah. But what we might be able to do is recreate him.
Recreate him in the aggregate, yep.
That's right. And what they did was, instead of Paul George, and his 25 points and, good defense, not great defense, they get Chris Dunn for $5 million a year, who was one of the best defensive guards in the league. And they go get Derek Jones, who, again, one of the best defenders on the wing last year in the NBA. They just found different routes into different players to be able to make it work. And I think that's what was so impressive to me. Norman Powell gets on base. Ivica Zubac, he gets on base. We got GMAC chiming in the background here, telling us, all these guys, they just get on base, right? And Zubac's obviously taking the massive leap that he did this year. That's the biggest reason for this, more than anything else. Zubac's becoming like a borderline all NBA player. Like that's development that I don't think that they could have seen, but maybe they did. I know that, trust me, I've talked to them. They have loved Zubats for years upon years now. There's a reason they extended him coming into this year for his max number, which I think was 19 million. They love him and they're ecstatic about him, but they just went about recreating Paul George in the aggregate here, and they're a better team for it for as long as Kawhi is healthy.
And I also think James Harden deserves a lot of credit here as well. He's 35 years old, Sam. He played 79 games this season for the Clippers, played 35 minutes a night. I know the overall field goal percentage isn't great, 41%, but he was 35% from 3 on high volume. He got to the free throw line over 7 times a game, shoots it well from there. almost 9 assists. He averaged 23, 9, and 6 at age 35.
Yeah.
I don't know that a lot of this other stuff matters if you don't have the guy. And it's something I really believe in. It was the crux of me and GMAC's Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns debate early on in the season. And I think it holds true here as well. Zubac deserves all the credit. Chris Dunn, credit. Norm Powell, credit. I don't know that any of it matters if James Harden doesn't turn back the clock in age 35 season and play 79 games, 35 minutes a night, and have a pretty impressive season whenever you just stack it all on top of each other.
Okay, now let's get to the third game. The first game of the night. Let's bring on our fearless leader here at the Game Theory Podcast.
Here's the funny thing. I'm about to give Karl Anthony Towns a whole lot of love after I just said what I said.
So that's where I do want to start this, though. The Knicks win this game 118-116. Some just banana land bullshit at the end of this game. Like no other way to phrase it. Like the scorers table in Detroit like rings the bell early before anybody touches the ball to get the Pistons a chance at an out.
For what it hold on. For what it's worth, the broadcast said that it's not Detroit's.
No, it's
like,
neutral. It's like a neutral.
It's
thing.
a neutral,
Totally.
Yeah.
Which makes the fake conspiracy even funnier that the league wanted to give this a chance. So
we were pretty upset on playback tonight over at Knicks Film School, watching it live. I was counting my,
Okay, so here's my question. Has anybody watched the officials though? Because my understanding is if maybe somebody out there that does the clock would tell me, you just watch the official. Like, you're not supposed to watch the game for the clock. You watch the official's hand signal. But I don't know if that happens on a missed free throw. I know for a fact it does on an inbounds. On an inbounds, the official will raise his hand, and whenever the ball's touched, then they do it. Maybe this isn't an NBA thing, though. Maybe this is just like small school, Kansas high school. I don't know. But so I wondered if the official actually messed up and the scorekeeper was actually doing what they're supposed to, watching the official.
I'm pretty confident in saying this was human error, and now that it's pretty clear that it wasn't like to give advantage to the Pistons, it was just, I mean, as we start to talk about the game, Bryce, the intensity was at an all-time high from the opening tip.
Yeah.
And when I saw the finish line from a fan, from a content creator, from a analyst, fanalist, whatever perspective, I saw the finish line, and then suddenly a wild Tim Hardaway Jr. 3 off a jump ball, a 3 from Tobias when the Knicks were like, don't contest, and Jalen Brunson just decides, I'm going to miss this last free throw for no reason with 0.5 left. Understanding that like the clock would have run out, I would have rather like not had to depend on the scorekeeper, I guess the time clock keeper, to end that game. But it was an exhilarating game, and I know my team came out on top, but that was an experience.
Well, let's kind of talk about what happened in this game. So I felt like this was the best that the Knicks have played in this series. They obviously win game 1 as well. But from beginning to end, outside of like a little stretch in the like early second quarter where, if I remember correctly, the Pistons got out to like a 4-point lead or so, this felt like the most controlled and balanced that the Knicks have played. And that balance to me starts on offense. In game 2, particularly, we talked about the fact that they went way too far toward like the Jalen Brunson, heliocentric creation ideal, right? But in this game, literally first shot is like a trailer Karl Towns 3 or like a pick and pop. I can't remember what it was. Third play was a, let's see here. I have it in my notes. It was a Karl Towns closeout where he attacks it, drives, draws a foul. Fourth possession, another trailer 3 for Towns, right? So clear that they made a concerted effort to get Karl Towns involved. It wasn't just Towns. Like, they did a great job of balancing, okay, we're going to run some ball screens with Towns. We're going to run a couple of ball screens with Towns and Brunson. actually, which is something that I felt like they didn't do a whole lot of in game 2. There were a couple of like pick and pop opportunities, a couple of heavy closeout chances where Towns was able to get to the rim off of those actions. But more than that, it just felt like the ball movement was crisper. They had a bunch of like swing, corner 3, swing, up to the wing, wing 3 for Bridges, right? It just felt a lot more balanced, a lot more polished. And I think that more than anything is ultimately the reason why they won. We all know that the Knicks have more talent than the Pistons do. I felt like they played up to that talent tonight for the first time in the series.
Go ahead, Bryce.
No, I mean, I agree. We talked about it. Me and GMAC talked about it. Me and Knicks Fan TV talked about it. It really was, what was the Karl Anthony Towns response? GMAC brought up something interesting, which was, would it be, I think this was you, would they overcompensate, right? Would they go too far the other way in terms of, would they emphasize Cat too much? There were a couple times I was like, yeah, I would like a little more Jalen Brunson right now if I'm the New York Knicks. But eventually he got his and he ended up with another 30-point game. It was funny because I called it inefficient on my live stream. And then I looked at the stats. I was like, oh, well, I sound stupid because it was actually on 20 shots. He just didn't make any threes. He made a bunch of free throws, made some mid-range jumpers, had 1 turnover, 7 rebounds, 9 assists. I would say that's probably pretty efficient. So I had to backtrack that one real fast, GMAC.
I watched your recap, by the way.
God bless you.
Yeah. Well, as opposed to Knicks Film School, who got off the air maybe 5 minutes before Game Theory started, you gave me a nice 33-minute recap. I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. That's easy. Why not? Guys, I don't know if you know this. I found this out tonight. Did you know the Knicks traded for Karl Anthony Towns? Did you know that like it's apparently effective if you do a pick and roll with him and Jalen Brunson? Like it actually leads to good offense. I had no idea that that's a thing you can do. I thought if you put a wing like a Tobias Harris type, let's just go there. If you put that on a Karl Anthony Towns, then he just like can't be brought into the action at all, because how dare we try to bring Tobias Harris into the action? Oh, or I don't know, do a post touch with Karl Anthony Towns and see if he could score on Tobias Harris. Oh, excuse me, a Tobias Harris type. And we have to bring Josh Hart into every action, especially in crunch time. This was what a lot of Knicks fans, a lot of Knicks voices have been asking for since January 2nd, because Fred Katz put out a great research article in The Athletic this week. You guys brought voice to it on your recap of Game 2, and we've been yelling about it since they played the Thunder on January 3rd, and the OKC put Jalen Williams on him, and the Knicks just did not give the ball to Cat in crunch time. It happened when they played the Rockets, and they had Dylan Brooks on him. It happened when they played the Lakers, and they put LeBron on him, and Cat wasn't touching the ball in crunch time, and you saw it in Game 2. And what did we see tonight? Hey, Cat, we're going to let you get a ton of touches, not just in the first quarter, but in the fourth quarter in crunch time. He had, I mean, it was hit or miss because you're not going to make everything, but he had one of the sweetest baseline moves to put them up 8. And then, like, not the perfect defensive game from Karl Anthony Towns, but
solid. He's been
plenty
solid.
of moments, especially when the moment where Cade quite literally crosses OG Anunoby's ankles and looks like he has a layup. Now, upon further review,
I think that's just on Cade.
I think he lost the ball, but I also think he was expecting Cat to go one way and he went the other.
He felt Cat. I'm not trying to take away from Cat because Cat was in the right position doing everything he could in that situation. I think Cade felt his contact. He had 2 really good verticality contests late in this game, like, to be clear. That one, I think, like, that move was sick.
Yeah.
And he had the crowd oohing and ahhing. And then I think Cade just kind of lost the ball. But to your point, he may have not expected Cat to get there or whatever, and may have surprised. I do want to point this out, though.
Please.
Because even with Tobias on him, I still think the thing that stood out and got him aggressive from the start was the trail 3-point attempts. And that had been missing in this series. And I kept pushing back at people with this, like, well, it's Tobias on him, so it's going to take that away. And I'm not talking about you. I'm actually talking about on my own podcast. I'm like, I don't know that I believe that. You're telling me Tobias Harris is so good closing out, he can keep Karl Anthony freaking Towns from shooting 3, 4, 5. I should start at 3, 4, 5 3-point attempts per game. So this team, Detroit, sucks in transition against stretch bigs. And it showed up finally tonight. So I do want to point that out, that I thought that was an important part of what seemed like the game plan for New York, was to find him in that trail 3-point position.
Of his 18 field goal attempts tonight from Karl Anthony Towns, 14 were taken with more than 14 seconds left on the shot clock. He was,
interesting,
to your point, that seems to be an effort. He took a ton of trailing the trailer threes. I was just so happy to see the offense get run through him. There were times where he found the open man when they doubled. Jalen Brunson being off ball has always been a thing I hope they do more of. They did a ton of it last year, whether it was off of Randall, off of Hartenstein. And and yet they still only won by 2 points, because that was a thrilling experience in the LCA with them giving him the Trae Young treatment that they did to Jalen Brunson. That was incredible.
Well, and a couple of things stand out to me too. What the idea of running like Brunson Towns ball screens does, if they start to like really get rolling, is it makes the Pistons adjust for what feels like to me the first time in the series, right? They actually adjusted to playing Jalen Duren on him at times. And that was just like, I mean, Bryce, I don't know how you feel about this, but I thought it was like truly catastrophic.
Well,
I don't know is Bryce going to say it? What happened? Go ahead, Bryce.
But part of that was because Tobias Harris got in foul trouble. And so, yeah. So, and then there was also just like some cross matches at times too, where Duren ended up on him when,
100%.
So, but you're right. It's not a great matchup, because Cat can.
He has no chance when he's attacking a closeout. Like genuinely just zero shot.
And then you add in that for the first 7 minutes and 12 seconds of the third quarter, when they switched Jalen Duren onto Karl Anthony Towns, you know how many times they ran a Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns pick and roll? That would be 0. They decided to go away from that offense for the entire start of the third quarter, and we're yelling like, Cat's being guarded by his center. We've been waiting for this since game 1. What is happening?
So I will say this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's, you could pick and pop him to death, right? Like you can just pick and pop Jalen Duren to death.
Spam it.
You also can run like a ball screen and try and get penetration and then kick out to Towns and make Duren close out on him, which is just not going to work.
They didn't do that either.
It's not going to go well. So like, yes, I agree with you. Like there are different ways to do it, but like they didn't do that either. You're not wrong. On the other end of the court, and I think this is where we do want to like focus on the Pistons for a minute, I thought their plan of attack was outstanding. I mean, the way that they just ran Brunson off of everything, especially in the first half, like there's a reason Tim Hardaway Jr. went off in this game, especially early on. And it was because they had Brunson on him and they just decided, okay, we are going to run Brunson off of every action. He got caught on a ton of screens, and particularly what they did, the Pistons, they came out very early and ran a ton of guard to guard actions, which I thought was awesome. I thought it was super, super sharp to try and just get Brunson involved. The way the Knicks guarded it, early on, especially, was they would try and like show like a soft like hedge almost with Brunson. And it just led to like this little momentary confusion where you let Cade's brain be able to like process things just a little bit quicker than what the defense was defending it. Right. And, they're playing like, not soft hedging. They're mostly dropping and switching and doing different things depending on who's in the action if it's not Brunson. But I thought it was so interesting to watch that cat and mouse game, and I'm interested to see how much more they continue to go down that road of just relentlessly attacking Brunson throughout the rest of the series.
No, I mean, it was the first action of the game. They brought Brunson into the action with Tim Hardaway Jr., knowing that the Knicks don't want to switch Brunson onto him. So Brunson hedged out a little bit. Tim Hardaway Jr. flared off of it. And then whatever was supposed to happen was either catch an immediate ball screen, or I'm assuming actually Duren was going to set a flare, making Brunson then try to navigate that. I think Hardaway Jr. ended up shooting a mid-range pull-up, which I didn't necessarily love. But to your point, from the opening action, Detroit tried to go to that. I will still say New York is not putting 2 on the ball enough, in my opinion. They should just trap Cade every single time. I don't think Detroit has They figured it out a little bit in the second half. They finally, Duran got some rolls and some stuff like that. But
so to me, Bryce, the adjustment there is if they start to trap Cade every time, it becomes hard because if you run guard to guard or like Cade Asar ball screens, okay, if it's guard to guard, then it's just pick and pop with THJ, right? And that becomes hard. And he's probably going to make a decent number of those shots, or, you know, they maybe send an early, you know, rotation up from the corner or something, and then he just shoots it down to the corner, right? And that's probably going to be Tobias Harris if you align the court properly in these actions, which, like, look, we've talked about Pistons like court alignment with these guys like all year, but there's like a way to adjust to it, in my opinion. And then if it's Asar, you just short roll him, and Asar should be able to make decisions off of those things. So there are moments where, like, any Cade Duran ball screen should just immediately be blitzed, in my opinion. Like, that's what I would want to do. But any of these other, like, guard to guard actions, I actually think it's a little bit harder to blitz those than what, you know, the ideal would be.
I understand. It's just like, I would make Asar make 10 6-foot jumpers then. Like, fine, you want to short roll Asar, make a jump shot. I'm staying home on everybody else, and you're going to make a one dribble 10-foot jump shot. Or I'm going to leave Asar standing in the corner and rotate off. I'm a little surprised it hasn't been more aggressive, I guess. Whenever Detroit has as many non-shooters on the floor as they do at times.
Asar only played like 9.5 minutes in the first
He
half.
was
that. What do you think? Go ahead.
It looked to me like JB lost trust in him. He looked a little out of sorts. I didn't think he was playing well in the first half. I thought he had a good third quarter and bounced back. Some Pistons fans are pretty frustrated with it. I get it because it is data collection for Detroit and not solely about winning the series.
For what it's worth, like, I just do not believe JB Bickerstaff like thinks that way.
Yeah.
What's that?
That it's about data collection.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think JB does either. Like, JB's trying to win the series. I mean, I literally put it in my notes. Like, it looked like JB lost confidence in him in the first half. And and
the other piece of this too is, like, you can put Schroeder on the court for him, and Schroeder is actually playing, like, really, really well.
Schroeder's been awesome. That's the thing. Schroeder's been awesome so far.
So that's what I wanted to get into, because the Knicks started with Brunson on Asar, and that's how they were able to somewhat hide him. Like, they were daring him to get involved in the offense. And then once, like, Tim Hardaway Jr. was going off and having a good shooting night, and then once they went and took Asar off the court and it was Schroeder instead, there's nowhere to hide Jalen Brunson. And that's what Mitch, you see what go to their most effective offense for the night, the Pistons. And that wasn't even Cade really orchestrating anything. It was the two veterans in Schroeder and Tim Hardaway Jr. just not missing in the first half. The stretch in the second quarter when the Knicks went on that 21-3 run, you mentioned that the Knicks aren't blitzing enough and aren't doubling Cade enough. I thought they tapped into something. I don't know how sustainable it was, but they put Bridges onto Cade and let Anunoby kind of roam a little bit, and Bridges was good enough. They showed and recovered when they needed to. But more specifically, it led to, like, defense into offense too. They got out and got some turnovers, got some stops, got the transition, and that was the stretch. I was like, oh, did we tap into something? Like, are you able to now guard him with more than just OG Anunoby? Not shut him down, but just respectfully guard him. So that way you can, you know, because that's the other thing is when OG Anunoby's playing off of Cade, that Dennis Schroeder stuff went away. The Tim Hardaway Jr. stuff went away, and they were able to have someone off ball be more successful.
So like my issue with that though is you just stop using ball screens and just let Cade, like, attack McHale one-on-one, and B, during that run, I mean, like, Malik Beasley, it felt like just missed like 4 threes or something, and at some point he's gonna shoot. Like, I mean, maybe not, like, he has struggled in the playoffs previously, but like at some point he's gonna start making open threes, right? And I'm not saying that, like, they're getting unlucky as a team shooting wise, because like you said, Tim and Dennis went crazy tonight, and they shot the shit out of the ball. But, like, I did feel like from a process perspective, it was just like, okay, like Malik Beasley's just missing threes now. Like this is the reality. And that 21-3 run was, it could have been like a 21-10 run. You know what I mean? Like they outplayed them during that stretch, but there were avenues for this to look different.
I don't disagree. I also think the stretch we saw from Tim Hardaway Jr. was not like you said, like it evened out that Tim Hardaway Jr. didn't miss and Malik Beasley couldn't make one. I also want to give Josh Hart some credit. He did all the Josh Hart things that you need when they're just ignoring you on the floor. Go ahead, Bryce.
I'm starting to get real pissed at Knicks fans for their Josh Hart hate.
Yeah.
Like it makes me really mad because I love Josh Hart. And I'm joking, Knicks fans, please don't yell at me.
No, he means it. And it's annoying. It's very annoying that they turned me on Josh Hart at times this year. Go ahead, Bryce. Go ahead.
He makes winning play. Here's what he makes. He makes momentum plays every single game. There's a momentum cut. There's a momentum transition. There's a momentum offensive rebound. Every single game he does something. I realize there's limitations. You know whose job it is to control his limitations? Your head coach. Mm-hmm. It's his job that if they need more floor spacing to sub him out and get somebody else in. But that ain't 48 minutes of even a playoff game. And so if they want to be mad at somebody, be mad at Tibbs that he doesn't only play him 28 minutes or 30 minutes as opposed to 41. That's not Josh Hart's fault, GMAC.
And that's what we've tried to make the conversation be about at Knicks Film School with Josh Hart. He's not underperforming. He's being overexposed.
I think that's
there's
fair.
a 30-minute version of Josh Hart that is outstanding. It's why if Mikal Bridges had played a little better this season, then you could probably give more confidence to Tibbs that I could play Josh 7 fewer minutes and maybe actually play a truer 5-out. It's honestly why I very much miss Dante DiVincenzo, because that's the actual 5-out guy that you'd want. But I say all of that just to bring up the 21-3 run. I'd have to go back and rewatch it, but it seemed like all of Malik Beasley's 3-point attempts were being met with a very good Josh Hart closeout, and then cat rebound. Josh is out in transition. We're out in scoring, and their starting five that's been much maligned, especially during the playoffs, played really well tonight, which helps because they got 9 bench points. So
yeah. I mean, look, this game was almost the outside of the defense being, not amazing. Like they give up 116 to a Detroit team that's middling on offense, right? I thought this game was in a lot of ways though, like the ideal of what Leon Rose in this group tried to build in the offseason. Like all 4 of these guys, Brunson, Towns, Anunoby, and Bridges go for 20 plus. They all shoot the ball reasonably well. Like, Brunson, I think went 9 of 20, but like got to the free throw line a ton. You saw the spacing from the wings. You saw the ability for Towns to be like a significant mismatch problem. You saw Brunson being able to create and be able to play both on and off ball. I think it was basically just like the pristine ideal of what they had hoped for. Now, the thing is that, Bridges has to play like this again, and they have to continue to find the right balance offensively, which is what they haven't found throughout the course of this series up until now. But I was very impressed with their overall performance. I was this was the most complete game that they played in the postseason among their 3 games so far. Defensively, like I didn't even hate the defense. It's just that, the Pistons on some level just made shots, right? Like the Pistons go 16 of 37 from 3 and drill 43%. The couple of things for me now to watch for in this series is A, can you keep finding the Towns mismatches? And B, and Bryce, you might be able to speak to this better than I can, certainly. What does this look like if Isaiah Stewart comes back? Because that's the big Pistons adjustment that can come, is if he can play at some point. Now, Bryce, I don't know what his status is. Do you?
I haven't talked to Amari about it, and usually when I do ask Amari, it's like he tells me he knows as much as what's being reported. I know it was questionable up to a certain point today, and then it wasn't even like a game time decision. Like my understanding, it's not like he like went through a workout during pregame or anything like that. It's starting to make me a little nervous whether we're going to see him or not. And he would have been huge tonight with the foul trouble to both Tobias Harris and Jalen Duren, with all due respect to the Paul Reed minutes tonight.
Again, I thought Paul Reed played well. It's just that the defense is like, he's great from an energy perspective. Like he does bring that. It is just really though that like the defense is not the same.
He also gave up like an offensive rebound put back to Mitch Robb because he simply is like half the size of Mitchell Robinson and legitimately couldn't box him out. And so, yeah, Isaiah Stewart would be huge. It's frustrating because, again, data collection, I've tried to pitch that Isaiah Stewart was going to be a really important playoff contributor for this team if and when that happened, and now we're not getting a chance to actually see it when they are in the playoffs.
It's interesting the perspectives of like and I don't even fault it because I like the phrase data collection, and like win or lose, the Pistons need to collect as much data about this core as possible. And here in New York, it's like, no, this is a desperation series. This isn't about we're not collecting any data. Like, people will lose their jobs if they lose this series, and they eke out a 2-point win with the scorekeeper and human error, I will say, potentially giving the Pistons one more shot to win the game.
I thought what today's game really showed was what we talked about before the series, GMAC. The Pistons don't have a consistent second scorer. They're doing it by committee. Right now, it's been Dennis Schroeder, and it's been a great trade deadline addition that Trajan Langdon made, and that's great. Dennis Schroeder isn't Karl Anthony Towns.
No.
And listen, we don't need to get into who's the best player in this series and all of that. At the end of the day, the Knicks have 4 of the top 5, and that's an issue. That's ultimately the talent gap here, which I think is actually a huge compliment to what Detroit has done through 3 games. The fact that they're only down 2-1 and lost this game by only 2 and would have stole game 1 if there wouldn't have been the 21-0 or whatever it was fourth quarter.
So if I can ask you before we wrap this part of the pod and maybe the pod in general, from the temperature check you got from the Pistons fans in your post game, how are they feeling about game 4 on Sunday?
Yeah, I think there's still confidence. I will tell you this. I was doing that solo, and so trying to read the comments while speaking the entire time was proven to be really difficult.
Experience,
Yeah, I had to be like, Wes, you're just going to star whatever you think I want to talk about and then throw it up on the screen when you think I want to talk about it. But it seemed like the vibes were still okay. There was the Duren inbound pass was frustrating for people.
Can we talk about that? Because I wanted to bring that up real quick.
Okay, yeah.
I actually think JB has coached like a pretty good series. I have no real I have nitpicks on things that I think differently, right? Like, that's okay, but I think he's coached a pretty good series so far. I think Tibbs, like, outside of the game 2 stuff, has been fine. Like, this is a series that's just super physical and tough and tight, right? The most insane coaching decision I think I've seen of the entire playoffs is Jalen Duren inbounding that pass.
I don't have an answer. I tried to talk.
It's completely crazy, Bryce.
Yeah, I tried to talk through it because. So I guess there is some credence to Mitchell Robinson being on the ball or whatever, but so
why do you not want Duren right at the rim as a potential lob idea? So
I disagree with that. I don't think you're throwing it to Duren to score no matter what. If anything, you're using him as a screener. I also vehemently. I aggressively disagree that Cade should have been inbounding the ball because I saw that from some people.
Agree with that too.
I don't agree with that.
0.5.
The only thing I can think of is in the moment, JB got a little bit caught up and said, I want my 4 best scorers to all be options on this. I don't even want to call it a play because I don't think there was actually a play run. Is the only thing I can think of. I'm not trying to defend it. I'm trying to get in his mind to think of what might have been going through his mind.
Just a question here in general, like, we're assuming that you can't change, like, you can't sub, right?
That was said on the broadcast. Based on what happened, neither team was allowed to sub in that situation. So that is it, which is very important to make note of. I don't think Duran would be an option in that situation. I also think having him inbound is just crazy. Like, just tell him to let him go set a screen for Cade Cunningham, right? Like, let Tobias throw it in, or
and
I
like
don't know.
you said that like you'd rather him screen than like go to the rim. Why can't he do both?
Sure,
like
sure,
he can screen and then run to the rim, and like if you're at 4 seconds on your internal clock, then
throw it up.
You throw the ball, right?
Sure.
And then you want your tallest guy there to be an option. So it was just like completely batshit to me. Like I had no idea what that was.
He also screwed up a really kind of important jump ball situation against Jalen Brunson, where he just like tipped the ball all the way out of bounds. And it was funny because I can't effing stand NBA jump balls because they take 2 minutes to line up. And I think it's the most ridiculous thing ever. Everybody who hates the alternate possession, I'm like, well, at least we get the ball in 12 seconds later. But I watched it get screwed up twice by guys who were going to win it easy. Edie got called for a foul on his against Lou Dort. It's like, you guys are going to win this. Just literally just tap it in. Just tap it in. Little tap.
I got to be real with you guys. This was a very good breakdown of the Jalen Duran turnover with 0.5 left. We were yelling on playback tonight, just so mad about the clock operator and giving them an out of bounds. I just
completely
looked up.
Crazy.
I just looked up and it's like, oh, we have the ball back. Great. I was so mad.
So here's the thing.
All of us were pretty mad. Yeah.
I didn't even care about it because like it's not gonna matter. They're not gonna score here. So what does it matter? So
you are unfamiliar with our game in New York. If there's any team that could screw up a 0.5 defensive stop that they need, it's this team. Whether it be Mitchell Robinson getting a jump pump faked up into the air by Tyrese Maxey last year in the playoffs, which led to a 4-point play. Whether it's Josh Hart inbounding the ball to Jaren Jackson Jr. under his own basket, leading to a tie game and forcing overtime. Whether it be what I was afraid of tonight, which was Jalen Duran throwing it just the other direction and someone on the Knicks committing a foul, which would have led to 2 free throws. It's literally like a quarterback that can't complete a pass that just is going for pass interference. That's what I thought was going to happen. And then when I looked up and we got the ball back, I was like, oh, okay, came over. That works. Awesome.
Okay, last thing I wanted to note here real quick. We have a defensive player of the year. It is Evan Mobley. Bryce, you asked me about this either last night or 2 nights ago.
Yeah, you thought maybe Draymond would get it.
Yeah, that's just like my lack of faith in like the voting body as a whole. Evan Mobley wins.
There's some votes here that I don't agree with. So
there are many votes here I don't agree with, but like, perfect. Evan Mobley gets defensive player of the year, 35 votes. He gets, it looks like to me, just looking here, only 65 first or second place votes, and 15 people actually left him off of their ballot.
Oh my god!
Entirely.
This is gonna drive me crazy. This is why I don't want to care about this shit, because it just pisses me off for no reason. I got to be awake in 4 hours, and I'm not gonna be able to sleep because 15 people left Evan Mobley off their DPOY.
Yeah. So just kind of looking through, Draymond Green, 54 ballots that he's on. Dyson Daniels, he is on 63 ballots. Lou Dort is on 41. Amen Thompson is on 33 of them. And those are really your 5. So 2/3 of people did not have Amen Thompson as the top 3 defensive player of the year. Again, just things that will drive me personally crazy. Overall thoughts here before we, close this up.
Giannis getting a first place vote is interesting. I think the one, God, I'm gonna sound like such a hater here. It also bothers me that SGA got vote, like was the next Thunder guy to get votes.
Yes.
And who's
insane? Somebody voting SGA number 2 is like insane. It's completely crazy.
And J-Dub didn't get a single vote.
Correct.
Nowhere to be found.
That did happen.
Nowhere to be found.
Yeah. Derek White, Rudy Gobert, like good defenders. I'm not going to sit here and be like, whatever on second and third. I mean, look, it's crazy out there. Look, there are crazy votes here. There are just crazy votes here.
Yeah. My only contribution to this is I actually don't think it's that crazy that Mobley that there were 15 people left off of that 15 people left Evan Mobley off a ballot, because I think there's 5 guys here that I heard get brought up in conversation that if you just by sheer rotation, that if you had at least 3 of them, I can understand it. Like if you wanted to put Zubac as a 3rd place vote and you had Dyson Daniels and Amen Thompson as your top 2, I would understand that. If you wanted to go the Lou Dort route, or the conversation around Draymond, I think got a little ridiculous. Shout out to having a podcast, but I would understand if he was on your ballot. I thought the right guy won, in my opinion.
No, and I guess I do need to remember there's only 3 votes. I guess I have no problem with people who don't have Mobley 1. Mobley was the one guy who I guess I felt strongly should at least be on every, you know what I mean? Like, if you're, me and Sam got through, we broke down the wall of why I don't value Dyson Daniels enough. But so if you're a Dyson Daniels and then you want to be the Draymond guy, then you have to at least put Mobley 3. You know what I mean? Like, I guess that's what surprises me a little bit is he at least didn't end up being the 3rd whenever they wanted to push their other 2.
It's the bottom of the ballot to me is where I got more objections than anything. I'm staring at the top 6 and it's like, that's probably the top 6 that I think were deserving of votes. So if you went,
I agree.
If you went and just like looked at that only, and it's like, okay, they got the right 6.
I agree with that 100% because even though that's like, I think we both had Zubac's first
We both
team.
had Zubac's first team.
Yeah, but that was our top 6 as well. Jaren was 2nd team. To be quite frank, like I had Giannis as my first guy off 2nd team, so like I'm not even mad about that. Like honestly, the vote that like Derek White as the 2nd best defender in the NBA is, I mean, I love Derek White, but that seems a little crazy to me.
Yes, like we've talked a lot about Tamani Kamara this year.
Yeah,
like to me, there's just like there's no real case for this.
Yeah,
and we love Tamani. Like Tamani's been our guy like the entire year. There's not been a more Tamani Kamara centric podcast than ours this year.
Yeah. Getting to Tamani into your top 3 is impossible for me. Like like we've had the Dyson Daniels conversation, and I'm probably lower than any one of us 3. I still had Dyson Daniels above Tamani Kamara whenever like we did this. Him getting votes, as much as I love him, doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I had Amen at number 1. Like, I'm glad that he's 5th here. The other thing that this does break down to me is like, it looks like those top 5 are probably going to be your top 5 for first team all defense, just given the separation between Zubac and Amen, where it's like 3 times as many votes. Look, like I would have Zubac over Dort. Like I think Dort's a great on-ball defender. I just think he doesn't do as much off the ball, which is, frankly, a bigger part of defense. Than it's like a higher percentage of the amount of time that you're defending is off the ball. Look, I want to acknowledge that I think Dyson is very clearly like the best like ball thief in the NBA, and there is a lot of value in that. I think that there's a lot of value that translates directly to points, especially because many of his turnovers drawn are off of a live dribble, and it creates live ball turnovers, which are easy buckets. It's really hard for me to watch him versus Amen in like, if you really know what you're looking at, and this is a case where like I don't want to like be enormously disrespectful to people, because like I'm somebody that's always willing to like have these conversations, and like I think it's important to understand other people's perspectives on these things. It's real tough for me. Amen versus Dyson is difficult to me.
I uploaded into the back end, by the way, our all defense teams, and it looks like we got the top 6 right, to your point, Bryce.
Yeah,
all 3 of us. So
yeah, I think there was a clear top 6 this year. So without being rude to people, if you stuck to those 6, I'm generally good with it. If you did not, then like you just kind of need to get a wider swath of the basketball that you're watching league wide. To me,
Mikal Bridges rout.
Honestly, like I was a little bit surprised OG did not get a vote. Like,
Yeah.
we'll bring
Look,
back up
I think it's
again.
going to be questionable whether he makes a second team or a third team even. So that's why I wasn't surprised, but if somebody wanted to put him on like a third team, a third place vote, I would have appreciated it. But
Yeah.
that I think goes to what you guys are talking about, the bottom half of the ballot, where it's like, I'll give this guy a vote, which was an interesting bottom of the ballot, but they got the right top six.
They got the right top six. Okay. Andrew, tell the people about Knicks Film School and about everything that you've got going on.
You could follow Knicks Film School on all socials by looking up Knicks Film School. We are on YouTube. We are on all podcast platforms. We're on Substack. Please subscribe wherever you want to find us, pre, during, and post for every Knicks game. And we'll be breaking this series down from the Knicks perspective pretty thoroughly. And just a quick shout out to Mets Therapy. It's on TikTok, Instagram, and on Twitter. Breaking down every Mets game with a little 5-minute therapy session. The New York Mets have won 7 straight games. They're 12-1 at home, and they're 18-7 on the season, the best record in baseball. I bought 4 sets of tickets yesterday to 4 different games. I'm very excited about the summer of Mets baseball. So if you care about baseball, please come join me talking about the Mets this entire summer.
Bryce, please tell the people where they can find your work.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, the Motor City Hoops Substack. If you are a Pistons or Knicks fan, maybe even just an NBA fan of the playoffs, drop my instant recap notes over there right after the game. I'm going to break down something tomorrow, maybe multiple somethings over the next couple days. I actually think I might just look at all of Karl-Anthony Towns' shot attempts and what Detroit could do to limit them moving forward. That sounds like it could be fun unless somebody else has a better idea. The Pistons Pulse podcast, where GMAC graciously joined us recently, and otherwise Game Theory podcast with the Sam Vecenie.
I got yelled at for that appearance, by the way, Bryce. Knicks fans said I was too negative because we repurposed it on our feed, and they were like, "Wow, do you even like the Knicks?" It's like, right now, no, I don't. That was awful. It's what I've seen all season. I kept it real. Leave me alone.
I love it.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. We will be back at some point this weekend. I don't know if it will be tomorrow night, if it will be the next night. We'll see how the games go. Kind of tomorrow night is obviously a Lakers Timberwolves game, and I love that series unconditionally. So like I'm semi tempted to talk about it, but also at some point I probably need like an afternoon to, write draft guide and like actually like really, really take some time to do some things on that. So keep it locked here. You will know when we go live. We appreciate everybody for coming in. This will be up on the podcast feed at some point soon. Hit the subscribe button wherever you listen, watch, do anything you can to support the show. We'll be back soon. Until next time, we'll talk soon.